My parents were handing out amusement park passes to all the grandkids. When they got to my kid they said, "Sorry, none left for you," then smiled and gave the extras to the neighbor's kids, while she stood there watching. I didn't cause a scene. I didn't lose it when they smirked. I didn't lose it when they handed 3 extra amusement park passes to the neighbor's kids. I lost it when my daughter looked at me like she wasn't worth being part of the family. It was supposed to be a casual Sunday barbecue. My mom called it a cousin's day. Burgers, lemonade, yard games, and then the surprise, what turned out to be the season passes to Adventure Lake. Every grandkid would get one. That's what they said. Every grandkid. I wouldn't have gone if I knew what they were planning. Maisie and I got there just before lunch. She was so excited. She loves her cousins even though most of them are older and don't include her much. She still tries. Still brings her silly rainbow backpack everywhere filled with stickers to hand out, drawings she makes for each of them. She even made one for my parents. A little crayon picture of their house with all of us smiling in the yard. I should have known when my mom barely glanced at it before setting it on the counter. After the hot dogs and overcooked burgers, they gathered all the kids near the patio. My dad brought out a small stack of blue envelopes. I recognized the logo right away. Adventure Lake, the biggest park in our area. Roller coasters, water rides, fireworks at night. The kind of place that costs more than I can afford without planning. They made a big show out of it, calling each grandkid's name like it was a ceremony. Even posed for photos while the kids cheered. Maisie kept shifting from foot to foot holding onto my arm. She was last in the line. Not that they'd said that out loud, but it was clear. And then it happened. My dad looked down at the stack and then at me. "Guess that's it. We're out." I waited for the laugh. For the punchline. But it didn't come. My mom chimed in. "Yeah, we only had so many. Sorry, sweetheart." Then she turned and handed the 3 remaining envelopes to the Johnson boys, who were sitting in folding chairs sipping juice boxes. The same neighbors who drop by every few weeks just to flatter my mom and talk about the flowers in her garden like they care. Maisie didn't get angry. She didn't cry. She just went quiet. All the light just dropped out of her face like someone pulled a plug. I stepped forward. Asked if they were serious. My mom actually chuckled. Said maybe if I hadn't been so independent about that cruise last fall, they could have afforded a few more. There was the cruise. They still weren't over it. The one my brother and his wife chipped in for. The one I refused to pay for because frankly I couldn't afford to. Not with medical bills from Maisie's asthma last spring. Not with rent going up. Not when they wanted $2,000 from me for their luxury week on a boat while I was skipping lunches at work to make ends meet. They'd been punishing me ever since. Little jabs, little omissions. But this was the moment it crossed the line. I told Maisie we were leaving. Packed up her things and walked straight past the patio while my mom called out something about taking a joke. But it wasn't a joke. It was calculated. The entire ride home Maisie stared out the window. She only asked one question. Did I do something wrong? But I didn't say it out loud. Because I was still trying to process what they'd just done to her. In front of everyone. They humiliated her to make a point. And I knew then I wasn't going to let it slide. What they didn't know, what they forgot, is that I was still listed as a secondary manager on their basement renovation account. It was a leftover from last year when I helped them set up everything at the bank. I did it as a favor when they were trying to get the whole thing off the ground. They wanted to build a rental suite downstairs. They had a plan, a budget, a dream. That dream had $8,000 sitting untouched, waiting for drywall, plumbing, new windows. So I moved it. Not spent. Not stolen. Just no longer accessible to them. They were so quick to cut my daughter off from a moment of joy. Now they'd know what it felt like to be cut off from something they were counting on. I didn't say a word to them after. I didn't answer texts. I didn't return the call when my mom tried to guilt me into bringing Maisie back over. They made their choice. And I had just made mine. This was only the beginning. They didn't notice the missing money right away. That surprised me. I expected instant panic, maybe even a dramatic phone call before they'd had their morning coffee. But nearly a week passed. Nothing. Not a word about the account. Not a word about Maisie either. Maybe they were too busy showing off the amusement park passes on social media. I saw the pictures because my brother posted them. The cousins smiling in front of the Adventure Lake entrance, the Johnson kids mixed in like they were part of the family now. My parents stood behind them holding up peace signs. Maisie saw the photo over my shoulder. She didn't say anything. She just turned back to her coloring book and pressed her crayons a little harder. By the 4th day she stopped asking why they didn't call. By the 5th she stopped mentioning them entirely. Then came day 6. My dad left a voicemail on my phone. He sounded confused, maybe slightly annoyed. Nothing dramatic. "Hey Janet. We tried to log into the Reno account to schedule the deposit for the contractor. Balance looks wrong. Maybe you can check on your end?" He didn't say zero. He didn't say empty. He didn't even sound alarmed. Just confused enough to be inconvenient. I didn't reply. Next day my mom texted me. "Hi sweetheart, there must have been a glitch. We saw the account is drained. Could you look into this?" I left that unanswered too. It wasn't until the following morning that they decided to escalate. I heard a knock right as I was making coffee. Maisie was still in her pajamas on the couch watching cartoons, legs tucked under her. When she heard the knock, she looked at me like she was trying to predict whether this was a good moment or a bad one. I opened the door. My parents pushed past the hello. My dad asked what I'd done. Not what happened. What I'd done. My mom stood behind him, giving me that tight smile she uses before she starts guilt-tripping. I told them the truth. I moved the money. My mom blinked like she couldn't process the words. Then she asked why, like she hadn't humiliated a 7-year-old in front of 24 people less than a week ago. I reminded them. They both tried to downplay it. It was a misunderstanding. The neighbors' kids were just there at the right time. The passes were accidentally overcounted. They didn't realize Maisie didn't get one. I didn't bother arguing. They knew exactly what they did. My dad shifted gears. Said they needed the $8,000. Contractors were scheduled. Materials were ordered. The renovation was supposed to start in 2 weeks. What was he supposed to tell them now? I said he could tell them whatever he wanted. My mom's voice sharpened. She said family doesn't sabotage each other this way. He said I was being vindictive. That I was teaching Maisie to hold grudges. That this was childish. Maisie heard her name and looked over wide-eyed, like she was waiting for someone to speak up for her. I closed the conversation right there. Told them to leave. They did, loudly, muttering about how ungrateful I was as they stormed down the stairs. 2 hours later my mom sent a long message. She wrote that she was hurt. That this was all a big misunderstanding. That they deserved better from me. That the account wasn't just theirs, it was a family project, and I was putting the whole family under strain. But nowhere in that long dramatic speech did she apologize to my daughter. Not once. And that told me everything I needed to know. They thought the missing money was the consequence. They had no idea it was just the warm-up. Because the real hit, the one they never saw coming, wasn't about $8,000. It was about something much bigger. And soon they were going to feel it. They didn't knock this time. Just showed up like they used to when I was a teenager, barging into my space like boundaries didn't apply to them. It was Saturday morning. I was inside folding a basket of clean clothes, watching Maisie out the front window. She was on the sidewalk, crouched over a new pack of chalk I'd gotten her, drawing big lopsided hearts and flowers and a crooked sun. Then I saw the car pull up, too fast, parked halfway across the curb, and my stomach dropped. My mom was out of the car before the engine stopped, marching toward Maisie like she hadn't spent the last 2 weeks pretending she didn't exist. My dad trailed behind her, slower, like maybe he knew this wasn't going to go well. By the time I opened the front door, my mom was already squatting beside Maisie, pretending everything was normal, complimenting the drawing, asking if she remembered the zoo trip from last summer, smiling like she hadn't iced her out in front of the whole family. Maisie looked up at me like she was trying to figure out what to do. She didn't look scared, just cautious, like she'd figured out what grown-ups were capable of. I called her name and told her to go inside. She didn't argue. Just stood up, dusted her hands off, and walked past both of them without a word. Then it was just me and them. My mom stood up slowly like she expected a conversation. My dad offered a nervous little wave like I was supposed to laugh it all off and invite them in for coffee. I didn't say anything, so my mom got straight to it. "We'd like to talk about the account," she said. "About getting those funds back. We know you're upset and maybe we made a mistake, but this has gone far enough." I didn't respond. He kept going. She said they'd already paid a deposit to a contractor. That they'd ordered new windows and booked the plumbing crew. That if I didn't return the money, they'd lose thousands. I said maybe they should have thought of that before using my daughter to make a point. My dad finally spoke up, trying to soften things. He said it wasn't personal, that it wasn't about Maisie. That they were just frustrated about the cruise and didn't think it through. I asked him what kind of adult punishes a child over money. He didn't have an answer for that. Then my mom changed tactics. He said I was being petty. That holding the renovation money hostage was cruel. That I was hurting them now. That family didn't turn on each other like this. I told her family also didn't stand in front of a child and give gifts to everyone else, then smile as they skipped over her. My mom's mouth tightened. She took a breath like she wanted to say something worse but caught herself. They left a few minutes later, empty-handed. That night I got a call. No caller ID. I let it go to voicemail. It was my dad. His voice was different this time, calm but sharp. Like he'd been rehearsing what to say. He said I was going too far. That he and my mom had tried to apologize. That I was putting money before family. And then right before the call ended he said something I'll never forget. Maybe it's better this way. Maybe Maisie just doesn't fit in with this family anymore. I listened to it twice, just to make sure I heard it right. She was 7. And they were ready to erase her over money, over a cruise, over some petty family pride. That was it for me. Not the money, not the insult, but the fact that they could look at a child, their granddaughter, and decide she wasn't worth the effort. I knew what I had to do next. They'd forgotten I still had one card left. One connection they hadn't thought to consider. My uncle. He runs the family business. He's not flashy or loud like my parents. Keeps to himself. Does things his way. He's the one they go to when they need a quick job, a contractor hookup, a loan they don't want on paper. They think he's just a tool in their back pocket. What they don't know is that he's been watching them for years. Quietly. Carefully. And he's not nearly as loyal to them as they think. Last year at a family dinner he pulled me aside and said something I'd never forgotten. If you ever need a real reset, call me. I've got you. I never thought I'd use it. But now I had 8,000 reasons and a daughter who deserved better. So I sent him a message. Told him I needed 10 minutes of his time. He wrote back in less than 30 seconds. Anytime. Uncle Ray didn't ask for proof. That was the first surprise. When I sat across from him at that cafe and laid it all out, the backyard humiliation, the fake apologies, the voicemail where my father said Maisie didn't belong in the family, he didn't blink. He just listened like he'd been waiting for this moment. Then he asked one question. Are you sure you're done trying to make peace? I said yes. He nodded, took a slow sip of coffee and said quietly, all right then. They're out. I asked what that meant exactly. He said I didn't need to worry about the details. Just know that their name wouldn't be on any upcoming contracts, referrals or side deals. The family business, the thing they'd leaned on for 20 years, would no longer return their calls. I left feeling, not satisfied exactly, just quiet. Calm. Like I'd finally set something right. But it didn't stay quiet for long. 3 days later they showed up again. This time they didn't park in the driveway. They pulled up across the street and sat in the car for a while like they were working up the nerve. I saw them through the blinds while Maisie was doing her homework at the kitchen table. When they finally crossed the yard and rang the bell, I already knew what was coming. My mom started with the usual performance. Soft voice, teary eyes, a carefully rehearsed look of disappointment. My dad stayed back, silent, arms folded like he was just there to supervise. We need to talk, she said. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. Maisie didn't need to hear whatever this was. She didn't waste time. Your uncle cut us out. Completely. We lost the contract with Henderson Roofing. The electrician canceled the job. The drywall guys said they're fully booked now. This is because of you. I didn't respond. He kept going. You had no right to take this away from us. It's not just about money. It's our reputation. We helped build that business. I reminded her that reputation was built on trust. And that I trusted her once too. That's when she dropped it. You're overreacting about a theme park pass. Are you really going to destroy your parents over one awkward moment? One awkward moment. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, you didn't just skip over Maisie. You humiliated her. And then when she stood there confused, you handed the extra passes to strangers. You made her feel like a mistake. That's not awkward. That's cruel. She didn't answer. Then she glanced at the door behind me like she was hoping Maisie was listening. And she said maybe it's better we didn't get too close. 'Cause different. Sensitive. Doesn't really fit in with the rest of the kids. We always tried with her but she didn't get to finish. Because I opened the door and Maisie was standing right there. She'd been there the whole time. Holding the edge of the frame with her little hand. Listening. My mom froze. Maisie didn't say a word. She didn't cry, didn't move. She just looked at them like she'd finally figured it all out. Then she turned around and walked back inside. I shut the door behind her. I didn't yell. I didn't make a scene. But in that moment something inside me locked into place. They weren't just petty. They weren't just selfish. They were dangerous. Not in a physical way, but in the way people are dangerous when they can look at a child and decide she's less than, just because she doesn't serve their ego. That night Maisie didn't sleep. She kept waking up. Said she heard voices at the door even hours later. I sat on the couch, staring at the ceiling and realized something I hadn't wanted to admit before. They weren't going to stop. Not unless I made them. So the next morning I called Ray again. No small talk this time. I want it permanent. I don't care how long it takes. I want them cut out fully. He didn't ask why. He just said consider it done. Then before hanging up he added something unexpected. You're not the first one they've done this to, Janet. You're just the first to stop playing along. That stuck with me. Because maybe this was never just about me and Maisie. Maybe this was the moment someone finally said enough. After I told Uncle Ray to make the cut permanent, I waited for the explosion. But for almost 2 weeks there was nothing. No calls, no texts, no unexpected visits, no passive-aggressive guilt bombs left in the mailbox. It was eerily quiet, like the eye of a storm. That kind of silence, especially from my mother, wasn't peace. It was strategy. Maisie noticed it too. She never said anything, but she stopped asking if they'd called. Her drawings got more colorful. She started sleeping through the night again. It was like she could finally exhale. But I knew it was temporary. People like my parents don't go down quietly, especially not when they lose control. It was a Wednesday when the silence broke. I was picking up groceries when I saw my phone light up. "We need to talk. Please." It was from my dad. No anger in the message. Just that one word that always made me suspicious. Please. I didn't answer. 2 hours later, another one. "You win. Just tell us what you want." That one made me pause. When, like this had been a game, told me everything I needed to know. They didn't regret what they'd done. They regretted that it cost them something. I didn't reply. Then came the call. Blocked number as usual. I let it go to voicemail. This time my dad's voice was quieter. Less performative. He said they were sorry, not for excluding Maisie, not for the smirks and the stunt with the passes, not for calling her different, but sorry for how things escalated. That's the word he used. Like the humiliation of a child was just a disagreement that got a little messy. Then he said they didn't mean to hurt anyone. That they were just trying to make a point. That maybe if I'd gone along with the cruise like everyone else, this all could have been avoided. And that was it. That was their version of remorse. But what really got me was what happened next. Sunday afternoon, I took Maisie to a local art event at the library. They were making collages and watercolor postcards. She was in her element, glue stick in hand, paint in her hair, completely focused on her project. While she worked, I stepped out to take a call from Uncle Ray. He didn't waste time. "They came to the office this morning," he said. Both of them. Sat across from me like everything was normal. Said this was all a misunderstanding. That they were being punished unfairly. That I was making a big deal out of something that just got a little out of hand. I asked what he said back. I told them if they wanted to be involved again, they needed to tell me exactly what happened on your front porch that night. Word for word. They danced around it. Said maybe you misheard. That you were emotional. That maybe you let your feelings cloud things. Then I asked your mom if she loved Maisie. I didn't breathe. Ray went on. She didn't say yes. Didn't say no either. Just looked down and said we've always tried with her. Then she said some kids just don't fit into every family dynamic. It's not our fault. I think I went cold for a second. Ray didn't sugarcoat it. I told them to leave. That the door wasn't just closed, it was locked. No business, no referrals, no support. Not now. Not ever. I just sat there staring at my car dashboard, while the library's automatic doors hissed open and shut behind me. They'd shown who they really were. And this time they'd done it to someone who had the power to cut them off completely. When I went back inside, Maisie was waiting for me with a postcard she'd made. She'd drawn our little house with flowers in the front and 4 stick figures this time. Me, her cat Muffin, and someone else. I asked who's the 4th. That's Uncle Ray, she said. He visits now. That hit me harder than anything else. Not because she missed them, but because she didn't. She had already made room for someone else. That night, around 11 p.m., I got one more message from my mom. No hi, no, how are you? Just, we've been talking. Maybe we should speak with Maisie directly. She deserves to hear our side too. I stared at that message for a long time. Their side. As if what happened to her was a disagreement, and not emotional harm from the people who should have protected her. I didn't reply. Maisie was asleep, curled up next to the cat, her arms wrapped around a worn stuffed animal. She didn't need another side. She didn't need manipulation disguised as closure. She needed peace. And I was finally giving it to her. I didn't answer the message. I didn't even open it. Just swiped it away and turned off my phone. Maisie didn't need to hear their side. There was no version of the story where handing amusement park passes to strangers while your granddaughter stood there watching, empty-handed, made sense. No version where saying maybe she just doesn't fit in could be reworded into anything but what it was. That message was their last attempt at control. But something had shifted. In them, in me, in everything. 2 days later, Uncle Ray called again. He didn't usually call twice unless something had moved. He said they'd been trying to go around him. They reached out to one of the junior partners in the family business. Someone younger, someone who didn't know the full story. Tried to say Ray was being unfair. That he was letting family drama interfere with business. Tried to push their way back in through the side door. Ray shut it down before it got anywhere. And then he did something I didn't expect. He sent me copies of every message they tried to send behind his back. Screenshots. Emails. Voicemails. Just so I'd know. Just so I wouldn't second-guess myself later. It was all there. The same language they always used. Manipulative, polite on the surface, venom underneath. Calling me emotional. Accusing me of turning the family against them. Claiming I was letting a child's feelings dictate adult decisions. That line, letting a child's feelings dictate adult decisions, said everything. That they still didn't understand what they'd done. Or worse, they did and they didn't care. Ray ended the call with this. I've given them space before. But this time, Janet, I told them the truth. I said if they wanted any chance at earning their way back, they weren't going to do it by crawling around and pretending you're the problem. They needed to apologize. To Maisie. And they needed to mean it. I didn't ask if they agreed. I already knew the answer. They wouldn't. Because apologies for them were weapons. Tools. Performances. Not something they gave without expecting to gain something. And this time there was nothing left for them to take. So we moved on. The silence that followed was different. Not tense, not strategic, final. Maisie started asking about swimming lessons again. She said she wanted to try soccer this spring. She hung a drawing on the fridge. A new one. A picture of a tall building with a sign that said Ray's office, with a little stick figure waving from inside. She said he helps people fix things. That's how she saw him. One night as we were making dinner, Maisie asked if Grandma and Grandpa were still mad. I said I didn't know. She thought about that for a second, then said, I don't want to go back there. You don't have to, I told her. And just like that she smiled. Like it was the answer she'd been hoping for all along. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need them to grovel or show up in tears. What I needed was that moment. That freedom. That clarity. They tried to make Maisie feel like she didn't belong. And all they did was show themselves out of the very family they wanted to control. Uncle Ray kept his word. The door stayed shut. The business moved on without them. Quietly. Efficiently. No drama. Me. I have my daughter back. I got peace. And they got to sit in the silence they created, and decide whether that grudge was worth more than the family they lost. I forgave them. Eventually. But I never gave the money back. And that's the part that still eats at them. Not the money itself. But the fact that they had to watch me walk away with it and not look back.